The region of southern Africa had an impressive history of conqueror kings whose accomplishments include notable victories against African and even European foes, Shangamire Dumbo perhaps being the greatest. Going up against tremendous, nearly insurmountable odds, King Sekhukhune became one of the most dreaded names in the history of southern Africa. Today, I wanted to speak about a little-known African ruler who gave two European groups a run for their money. What up, African world? It's Home Team here, and welcome back to another video of African history, culture, and worldview. And if you like this content, you can support the Home Team on patreon.com. There, you can find sources and more in-depth courses on African history. And with a word from my sponsors, there's a new social media platform dedicated to educating and uplifting our people. No longer do we have to be censored for speaking our truth. Our Black Truth is Black owned and operated, and a place where you can post your businesses and even monetize your content. You can download the app at Google Play or the App Store, and you can visit the website at ourbblacktruth.com. Links to everything in the description box below. Before we speak about King Sekhukhune, we need to first tell a little backstory on the Bapedi people in general. In the 19th century, it seemed as though the Bapedi were on the verge of near extinction due to attacks by the Matabele people, also known as the Northern Ndebele. Now, I'm aware that the word extinction is a slight exaggeration, but I use it to more so illustrate the feelings of desperation and loss by the Bapedi people. The Northern Ndebele overwhelmed the Bapedi people, killing just about every one of their royal sons, except for a Bapedi prince named Sekhwati. Sekhwati fled with the remaining Bapedi people. They then became wanderers and survived by raiding small villages, capturing women and cattle. The Bapedi also faced an uphill battle against the Zulu and Swazi people. Despite these odds, the Bapedi successfully resisted these African ethnic groups via guerrilla warfare, refusing to meet the enemy in pitched battle. To appease the Zulu, the Bapedi opted to send gifts to remedy the persistent onslaught. Even though the Zulu viewed them as a sort of vassal, the Bapedi people did not see themselves as such. They were the underdogs, simply playing chess from their perspective. Troubles over land grants via Boer and Bapedi interactions escalated quickly. Sekhwati initially allowed the Boers into the Eastern Transvaal, but issues over who actually ruled that area and whose right it was to give was a little blurry. This caused major friction between all parties involved, African and European. The rapid arming of the Bapedi alarmed their Boer neighbors, who decided that the tribe must be defeated and disarmed before it became too late. In September 1852, a 24-day siege was laid to Fearing after an initial charge had failed to dislodge the Bapedi. Although the defenders were reduced to sucking the liquid from the stomachs of cattle that had died, the Boers retired without having captured the stronghold. The Bapedi were in survival against all foes, foreign and domestic. After King Sekhwati's death, King Sekhukhune seized the throne. After having shown resilience and strength against Boer aggression, the Bapedi became more confident, especially under their new king. Given their journey as a people, constantly having to defend themselves just to survive, King Sekhukhune was intent on thriving. He no longer wanted his people to have the scraps left over by the Zulu, the Swazis, or the Boers. King Sekhukhune soon became very concerned about the growth of Christianity in his region. He viewed the new religion as an immediate threat to his authority, and so his first act of aggression against Europeans was to expel all the converts and the missionaries from his country. Over time, Sekhukhune became more popular amongst surrounding ethnic groups, and more of them began to declare themselves loyal to him. His empire was growing at a frightening pace. His power increased further as he welcomed Zulu and Swazi refugees. King Sekhukhune had momentum and the vision to build an even bigger and better empire. During this time, a Boer state was established, known as the South African Republic, and they were able to collect taxes from some surrounding African ethnic groups. but collection of taxes was decreased as other African ethnic groups claimed loyalty to King Sekhukhune. In May 16, 1876, the Boers declared war on the Bapedi. Sekhukhune kept the whole of the Lydenburg district in a state of tension by spreading rumors that he was about to attack Lydenburg. But the chief had no intention of waging an offensive war. He knew that his strength lay not so much in the number of his warriors, nor in their fighting quality, but rather in the inaccessibility of his strongholds, as well as in the fact that his men were well armed. The Boers, though ambitious, were totally unprepared and simply could not get a stronghold over the Bapedi king. Once the commando started out, Sekhukhune sent small groups of his men behind the Boer lines to harry undefended farms. This demoralized the Boers and reinforced the feeling among many of them that their greater duty lay at home and not on commando. There were consequently numerous desertions, and officers had great difficulty in enforcing obedience. The Boers eventually found success by shifting strategies into preventing the Bapedi from sowing and reaping corn. Even though King Sekhukune's power was intact, it was still somewhat checked by the Boers. However, this was viewed as a failure by the British, and even though they initially condemned Boers' ambition as an act of aggression, they would eventually replace them. The British believed that King Sekhukune's success could have repercussions, encouraging other African ethnic groups against European powers. Unless Sekhukune's power was speedily crushed, other tribes would gain the impression that the Europeans were unable to control them. King Sekhukhune, being informed of a transition of power in the region between the Boers and the British, did what the former Bapedi ruler formalized with the Zulu, offering temporary tribute with the intention of gaining time and opportunity. It was only the chronic food shortage situation that kept King Sekhukhune at bay. This strategy actually worked, and the British were mostly under the impression that the Bapedi people would cause no issues, and thus the removal of volunteer troops were disbanded in areas important to King Sekhukhune. Sekhukhune conducted surprise raids on isolated farms, hoping that these small incursions would convince the British to seek quieter pastures in another part of the country. In August 1878, the British sent Colonel Hugh Rowland to the Transvaal for an assault on King Sekhukune's main stronghold. This expedition failed to reach the Bapedi ruler and was retracted. The chief's prestige and status in the eyes of the surrounding tribes had increased greatly after the failure of Rowland's expedition, for he could then boast that he had withstood the onslaughts of both Boer and Britain. In 1879, General Garnet Wolseley came to the Transvaal to consolidate British authority in the region. Instead of violence, General Wolseley thought if he could capture the Zulu ruler at the time, he would be able to scare King Sekhukhune. After the capture of the Zulu king, the British general offered terms, and of course, the Bapedi king refused. General Wolseley decided to overwhelm the Bapedi by sheer weight and numbers. The attack on Sekhukune's stat would be two-pronged. The Lydenburg column, comprising 5,000 through 8,000 Swazis, 400 other Africans and 400 Europeans, advanced from Fort Burgers and set up Fort George, 5 miles from the base of the hill overlooking Sekhukune's stat. The main column, a total of 3,000 Europeans and 2,500 African allies. It's interesting to see a clear tradition during the period of colonization in which European forces would continually be reinforced and sometimes even spearheaded by African support and allyship. African diversity seemed to be the principal weapon Europeans indirectly used against the continent. But all in all, King Sekhukhune was defeated by this massive force of Africans and Europeans. In the face of terrible circumstances, the Bapedi people stood toe-to-toe against great odds under their leader, the great King Sekhukhune. Surprisingly, in rare form, the London Times spoke about King Sekhukhune glowingly. We hear this morning of the death of one of the bravest of our former enemies, the chief Sekhukhune. The news carries us some years back to the time when the name of Sekhukhune was a name of dread, first to the Dutch and then to the English colonists of the Transvaal and Natal. Well, I'm all out, guys. If you like these videos and want to help in its continued production, consider supporting the home team on patreon.com. The link is in the description box below. Know thyself, remember your ancestors. Peace.